Hello everyone, I'm Gina Hector and this is the video lecture for Word Module 2. Right now you can see on my screen that I'm in the ebook chapter and this is what I'm going to be reading through as I go through the exercise. If you would like to work alongside with me, you'll need to download the files from our Canvas course. When you're in Canvas, in Modules, there's a section here that has a MAB60 data file zip folder. I've already downloaded it, but these are all the files that go along with the project that makes up each chapter of the book. So if you want to go along with me as I go through this video lecture for the chapter, you can download those files first. So I have already downloaded the data files folder. It's here on my computer. I'm going to double click to open it. I'm working on Word Module 2. And if I'm following along with the steps in the book, it tells me to open up file ILWD2-1. Now I don't see that here, but it's going to be in the lesson folder, the folder that goes along with the lessons of the chapter. There it is right there. I'll go ahead and open that file. Okay, I've just opened up the file and you know you'll need to click Enable Editing to continue working on this file. Before I continue with the exercise, I want to point out that you'll notice up here on the top of my screen, I'm only seeing the tabs and I'm not seeing the full ribbon. So if I reveal one of the ribbons just by clicking on one of them, over on the far right of the ribbon is a little drop-down arrow. And so if I always want to show the ribbon, I can select that option. I like having the ribbon open at all times, especially when I'm teaching students, because it makes it easy to go and visualize where things are, rather than having to click on the tab first. I can see all of the options on that open tab. Okay, so right now I'm following along with the textbook exercise. It says that it wants me to click on the Review tab, which I already did. This first part of the exercise is about inserting comments, and you can see that on the Review tab, the Show Comments button is turned on. That's not by default, so just know that if you do add comments, you'll be doing that from here, which we're going to do in a moment. But if I didn't want to see the comments, I could just simply hide them. So I can see them here by these little speech bubbles where there have been comments, but I don't see that panel on the right-hand side. So if I want to show them, I can just turn them on. Now in the exercise in the book, it says to turn on all markup. I already have that turned on this file. If I went to no markup, you can see the little speech bubbles go away and the panel with all of the comments goes away. And so this would let me see it without any distractions of the comments. If I want to go back, I can show all markup and any comments that people have put. Now the word job right here is highlighted, and I can see when I point to it, it sort of changes with this purple shading, and also the comment to the right changes. So if I click on the word job, it actually highlights that comment. And so I can see that when Dawn placed this comment, she selected the word job to associate her comment with that particular word. So if I want to reply to Dawn's comment, I can just simply click in the reply box right here and then just type in what my response is. And I'm going to type in this title is approved by, oh no, that's the wrong comment. I'm reading the textbook as I go along here. I am compiling a list. And then I can either click the post button here, the little arrow, or you can just simply click anywhere in the document and it will be posted. Now if I want to add a comment, they want me to add a comment that's associated with the word sector in this first line. So I'm just going to simply double click on the word sector to select it. And then I can click on New Comment from the shortcut menu here, the mini toolbar that appears. I could also go up to New Comment in the Review ribbon. So I'll click on New Comment. Now it'll have my name or whatever name is associated with your computer, and then I can add in my comment for this. So I'm going to put in, this title is approved by the web team, and I'll post. So if someone has commented and you don't need to see it here anymore, Dawn just commented, great. So I'm going to click in that box, and then on my ribbon, I'm just going to go to delete. And I don't want to delete all comments, so I should point out something about this button. You'll notice when I point to it, it's divided into two parts. So the upper part would automatically delete whatever comment I have selected. Make sure the correct one is selected. The bottom half gives you some options. So delete here is the same as clicking the top half, but I also have options to delete all the comments. And so now that comment is deleted. Now next I want to edit my own comment down here where I replied to Dawn. So I'm going to click here and then click again on my reply, and then I can click on this edit comment button and I can add on to it. So if I have some additional things I want to add on, and then I'll check to accept that. And so it's easy to edit your comments as well. If you don't want to delete a comment or reply that it's been resolved, you can simply mark the comment as resolved. So this message here from Dawn, please add citations to the document. I'm going to click the little three dots and choose Resolve Thread. And you can see that it no longer appears here, but it still appears right here. So if I click on it, I can see what was written, but that has now been resolved, so it's no longer needed to be shown for an active comment. I'm going to go ahead and just quickly save my changes. Now, everyone, in the textbook, we were supposed to go to File and Save As and give it a new name. And so I could go ahead and do that if I wanted. I think it was supposed to be called Tech Jobs, so maybe I'll do that just in case. I'm just going to click up here, and it was just simply changing this to _ Tech Jobs. Now, of course, this doesn't matter because you're not uploading this to me, but I'm just wanting to follow along with the exercise. In case anything comes up and you need me to get back to that file, I'll remember what it's called. Now that I'm finished working on my comments, I'm going to change this from all markup back to no markup or original, and now I don't see that. Now to continue on, the next thing is about using find and replace. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger by just clicking my little zoom control here. You can also go to view and change it here. It can quickly jump to 100%. Page width will quickly jump it so that I can see the left and right margins, but it makes it much, much bigger. Okay, going back to the home ribbon, in the editing group, right here, you'll notice we have both find and replace, but if I click on replace, you can see that they're actually part of the same dialog box. I still have to find something to replace it, so it's not necessary to go to find first. You can just jump straight to replace, and you'll get find and talent in all lowercase, and replace it with the word skill. Now there's some options here. I can click on more, and just in case the word talent was in here in, let's say, mixed case, maybe all caps, if I'm only looking for the words talent that are in lowercase, then I can choose match case. So that's important when you want to make sure that you are not changing something that you don't want to change. Now you'll notice it says search down right now. I'm going to change that to all, because depending on where your insertion point was positioned, it may default to wanting to only search from that point to the end of the document. So you should get a message that says, do you want to continue searching? But you can always change that from the beginning, or you can do Control Home before you even start so that your insertion point is positioned at the beginning of the document. So I've put in talent, I've put in skill, I've changed it to match case, and now I'm going to choose replace all. And so it says all done. It made 8 replacements. Now the only problem with this is that I don't know where they were. Did I want to change it? But if you know that you'd used the word talent many times and you wanted to change it to skill, then this is an easy thing to do. If you knew you had used an abbreviation that you now want to spell out, something like that, this is a great option. Or someone's name you'd misspell, things like that. So I'll go ahead and click OK. The dialog box does not close automatically, so you can go ahead and click the X to close that dialog box. Now just to confirm that it didn't change any word talent that was not in all lowercase, I'm going to go back to editing and click on Find, and this time I'm going to just type in talent with a capital T. Now you'll notice that it didn't open the Find and Replace dialog box. I could use Find from that dialog box and still search for something, but if you just choose Find alone, it now opens this navigation panel. So you can see that as I typed it in, it's showing me there were 2 results, and it's highlighting them for me, and I can see that they have capital T. So JCL Talent is the name of a company. We didn't want to change that to a lowercase word skill. We don't want to change the name of the company. So that's why we made the selection to match case when we use the replace option. I'm going to go ahead and close this navigation pane, and I do want to go back to replace just to discuss some of the options here. Finding whole words, wildcards are things where if I used an asterisk or a number sign or a question mark that can represent a string of characters or a particular number if I'm searching for something. We don't get into that in this exercise, but you can do a search on using wildcards just to find out how that works. But I want to click on Format and just show you that some of the things that we can also make part of the formatting is, let's say for example I wanted to find the word talent and replace it with the word skill in bold. So down here while I'm in the skill box, I could go to Format and Style. Well, these are some other styles. Let's see, I think I can just go to Format Font, and here's where I could choose bold. I can even choose a different font style and click OK, and now you can see it has bold. So if I had found the word skill, talent, or professions, I don't know why that popped in there. Oh, it's because it's highlighted. If I did that now and did replace, any occurrences of that would be replaced with the word skill in bold. There's also some other special formatting options. So if I was looking for spaces or paragraph marks, you can include that in your search. The next topic is about checking spelling and grammar. I'm going to use Control-Home shortcut to get myself back to the top of the screen here. Okay, so everyone, when I was just doing that on my keyboard, I'm on my laptop where the number pad can be used for either navigation keys or for numbers. And so my home key is on that number pad, and I have to turn off the numlock key if I want to use that option. So just be aware that might be true on your keyboard as well. All right, so just scrolling from the top here, I can see some things like here's something with a red wavy underline. This means that the program is recognizing that as a spelling error. There's another one down here, and it looks like that's all that's popping up. So the textbook is identifying Siobhan here in the second paragraph as being underlined. It's not on mine, so maybe I did this exercise before and added it to the dictionary, but if you did have a wavy underline that underneath that and it was not recognized, you can right-click on that and you'll get a shortcut menu with some suggestions. And one of them is you can add it to the dictionary or you can ignore it. Okay? Let me try it on this one over here with innovations. So if I right-click on innovations that's spelled incorrectly, I'll get this pop-up menu, and then I can see some options here for correcting it. If it were a proper name that's popping up, like your name, for example, if it's always coming up as misspelled, you can add it to the dictionary. You can ignore all occurrences of it spelled that way, or you could just simply click on one of the ones to change it. Now, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave it and then go to my Review tab and then click on Spelling and Grammar. Now, there's another split button here. See a top half and bottom half. If I click the bottom half, it's giving me a choice to just go to Spelling. Okay, but Spelling and Grammar is selected, so that means when I click the top half, it's going to be checking for both spelling and grammar. Now, if you haven't used Word in a long time, it used to have a pop-up window, another window that would open. Now it uses what's called the editor. And so this has some other tools that are built in addition to spelling and grammar check. So it's going to the first word that notices is misspelled, and it's giving me some options, and I can click on the one that's correct, and it'll move me on to the next one. Now here, this is giving me a grammatical error saying that I've got double words, and so it's just offering to remove one of those, which is correct. So I'll click on that option. And then finally down here, this is removing this word could make the sentence clearer. So hiring for systems analyst, we don't need that for in there. So I'm going to take their suggestion and just choose hiring. Now it's giving me this editor score. The higher the score, the clearer the writing is. And so you've got some refinement options here, clarity. It's giving me some things here that I can look at. But 91% is a pretty clear score. And of course, you don't have to rely totally on this. You can see that it's underlining some other things here. And that's some of the issues that it's thinking that you might want to change. If I click on a must, I could change that with the word necessary, for example. Okay. If I click on problem solving skills, it's giving me an option for some other changes. So you can see what's wrong with problem solving skills. I don't need to have it say critical thinking skills. So it's just giving you some suggestions. If I want to go back to what it had before with a must, then I can just click my undo button immediately and get that back. I'm going to go ahead and close the editor and scroll back up here. And the next topic is about using the research tools. So the word research feature allows you to quickly search reference sources and the web for information related to a selected word or phrase. And one popular resource or reference tool that many people use in Word is the thesaurus. And so I'm going to select the word whizzes in the third line of this second paragraph. So I'm just going to find it and double click on it. And then I can right click on that word, and then I can go to synonyms, and it's giving me some suggested synonyms here. And so if I wanted to change it to experts, I could just click it here. Now, whoops, right here. If I click on thesaurus, it'll actually open up that panel. So this is part of that research tool, which I could have found also on the review ribbon right here in the proofing group. Okay, so I don't have the word. Let me double click on the word again, and then if I wanted to replace it with experts, I could just simply, there's a little arrow here to the right of experts, and I can click on insert right there and change it. So I think it's a lot easier to just simply select the word, right click, go to synonyms, and then make the choice there. I'll try that with the word relevant here in this paragraph. So I'll double click on relevant, I'll right click, I'll point to synonyms, and I'm going to choose oh, it doesn't have pertinent. That's what they want me to select. So I don't see pertinent in this group here, so I'll have to click on thesaurus. Here it is. I'll select the little arrow and then insert. Another great tool for students is word count. You're often asked to write papers with a certain minimum number of words. And so if I wanted to do the word count of the entire document, I could quickly do Control A to select the whole document. And the word count actually appears down here at the bottom of the screen. You can see 1028 of 1028, so that's how many words I have selected of the total. If I had only selected one paragraph, you can see down here it says 62 of 1028. So if I just want to know how many words in that one paragraph. Now I can open up the word count dialog box by clicking on word count here. And then you can see it can also show me characters with no spaces, the characters with space, how many pages, how many words. But remember, this is how many words I have selected. So if I close that and deselect and go back to word count, it's giving me the total words. So very handy little tool. Okay, I'm going to close the thesaurus panel here, and I'm going to use Control Home to go back to the top of my document. I'm going to go to the Home ribbon, and I want to turn on the Show Hide button here, this sort of backward P symbol. So when that's turned on, you can see little dots that represent spaces, and this backward P that represents when the Enter key was pressed or the end of a paragraph. Now you'll notice that after this title, I see the paragraph symbol, but I don't see a paragraph symbol in this blank space. In old versions of Word, you would have had to press Enter 2 times to create a space between paragraphs. But now what's called the normal style automatically puts extra space after a paragraph. For example, if I double click on the word career, you can see how extra spacing is shaded here. So that is the default in Word with extra space. We can change that. And this next topic of the chapter talks about changing line spacing and indents, and we'll look at also at paragraph spacing. So I'm going to select the entire document, Control A to select all. Well, I should point out you can also use the selection bar. That's when your mouse is in the left margin space and it's a white arrow pointing towards the text. If you triple click in the selection bar, click, 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 it will automatically select all. So that is another option rather than going to use the keyboard combination Control A. All right, now with all of that selected, I'm going to go here on the Home ribbon. There's a line spacing button, line and paragraph spacing. And if I click on that, you'll notice that Remove Space After is an option. So if I didn't want spacing between the paragraphs, I could remove that. Remember, that's part of the default settings for Word, but you can remove it here. Now, if I want to change the line spacing, you can see if I go to 1.15, it starts to put some extra spacing between the lines. And if I go to 2.0 and click on it, I have now double spaced all of the paragraphs. So, many papers that you might write are supposed to be double spaced. That gives your instructor space to write notes. And even for yourself, you might do that if you're working on an outline or even just a rough draft of something that may later be single spaced. Double spacing, it makes it easy if you're going to print it out and you want to make some notes. Okay, so now it says to place the insertion point in the first body paragraph. So I'm just going to click in this one paragraph here. I'm not selecting, I'm just clicking anywhere in that paragraph. And if I now go back to the line spacing button and change this to 1.15 and click, you can see that it has only changed the one paragraph that my insertion point had happened to be spaced in. Next, it says to select the next 2 paragraphs. So that is this paragraph and this paragraph. And I want to point out that even if I don't select the entire paragraph here, as long as part of it is selected, if I go now and change those also to 1.15, I've adjusted those. So you never have to have an entire paragraph selected. You can just have your insertion point in that paragraph or a part of the paragraph selected. Paragraph formatting is going to be applied to the entire paragraph, whether it's selected or not. Okay, now it says to click before job at the beginning of the paragraph, first one here. And before I press the tab key, I want you to notice up here on the ruler, there's some markers here that represent the where the text starts here at the left margin. The gray space is outside the margin space. The white is the text area where you could type. There are actually three little markers here. The upside down triangle is the first line indent. The bottom triangle is the hanging indent. And below that, the little box is the left indent that actually would move both triangles at the same time. So I'm pointing that out because if I'm right here in front of job seekers and I press the Tab key, you'll notice the first line indent moved to the ½ mark. And so by default, tabs are set at every ½ inch. So if I press Tab again, it moves it over. Now you'll notice this time it also moved everything here. That's something else that's a default in Word that thinks that I want to indent the paragraph, but I also wanted the first line indented. I'm going to hit my backspace button, my undo button to undo that option. And so it automatically did that. Now, if I had wanted all the paragraphs to have the first line indented, I could have selected all and then moved that marker and dragged it here to this position. I'll try that technique now, but only for this second paragraph. So I'm going to click anywhere in the second paragraph. It doesn't matter whether your insertion point is at the beginning or not. I'm going to point to the first line indent. It's very important when you're using these markers, if you're going to move them, look for the screen tip to make sure that you're pointing to the right marker. So I see the screen tip first line indent. I'll press and hold my mouse button down and drag to the ½ inch mark. So it certainly was a lot easier to just click in front of it and press the Tab key, but if I were going to change the first line indent for multiple paragraphs, I would have to select them all and then use that method. Next, I'm going to go down to the third paragraph here, labor statistics, and let's try moving the hanging indent. So that's the bottom triangle. Make sure the screen tip says hanging indent, and then press and hold and drag that to the ½ inch mark. So you'll notice that the first line indent is still at 0, so that line is still flush against the left margin. But now all other lines are hanging at the ½ inch mark. Now this looks weird, but there are a couple of places that this is used automatically. Bullets and numbered list, because the bullet point might appear on the left, and then there's a little space, and then all other lines that wrap around would wrap under the first line of text, not underneath the bullet point. The other place that you'll see the hanging indent automatically used is in bibliographies. Because bibliographies may be multiple lines, but you want to be able to quickly see them listed alphabetically, they also use a hanging indent option. And for both bullets, numbers, and bibliographies, the hanging indent is moved automatically. You don't have to adjust that. Okay, I'm going to scroll back up here, and it wants me to place my insertion point anywhere on this first body paragraph. And remember, I told you that the default in Word puts extra spacing after paragraphs, but if I click anywhere in this paragraph and I go to my line and paragraph spacing button and I choose to remove space after paragraph, then you can see now it's right next to the next paragraph. Now typically you would need extra spacing between paragraphs if you're going to indent the first line. Indenting the first line lets the reader see that that is a new paragraph. Next, we're going to look at applying styles to text. So a style set is just a group of fonts and other types of styles, or it could be bold, italic, different colors, paragraph alignment that are built in and named. Now you'll notice here on the home ribbon in the styles group, normal is selected. When you open up a blank Word document, the normal style is there by default. It is Calibri font 11 point, and it's set up to have extra spacing after paragraphs. So you can always change fonts and sizes and line spacing manually, but there are some built-in options that might make it easy to just select from the styles group. So I'm going to select our title here, Career Growth in the Tech Sector, And in the style group, you can click on this little more button here, the little drop down arrow, so you can see more options. And I'm going to choose title. And I can see it's going to be a lot bigger just from the box up here. And then when I click on it, I can see, okay, it's still Calibri, but if I click on it, I can see it's 28 point now, not 11 point. But you'll notice that I don't have any extra space after. So that particular style did not have built into it extra spacing after. Now I could always go and apply that from here. I could also modify the style. I'm going to scroll down to the next heading here, Applications Developer, and I'll select that text. And this time I want to apply the heading 1 style. And so you can see this style is in blue, and it also does not have the extra spacing after it. Now, this little square that you see is not a bullet point. That is letting me know that a style has been applied. And so if I turn off the Show Hide button, you see it disappear. So that's not a bullet point. It's actually outside of the left margin. It's just letting me know that I have applied a built-in style. Now, if I click in this first body paragraph up here, I'm going to scroll up and click anywhere in that first body paragraph. And this time I'm going to launch this paragraph dialog box. So within a ribbon, the group names appear at the bottom, and some of the groups have a dialog box launcher in the bottom right corner that give you other options that are related to that group. So I'm going to click on the one for paragraph, and this launches this little paragraph dialog box, which you can move around by dragging the title bar if it's in your way. And so what it wants me to do is to just take a little time to review what options you have in here. And you can see that special, I see first line is at 0.5, so I could have made that change here as well. I can add spacing before or after the paragraph here. So there's a lot of choices that you have that you can make in this dialog box that you may not see here. Like, for example, if I wanted the first line to be moved to the 1/4 inch mark, I could have dragged it here, but I can also make that change here. Okay, so I'm not going to make any changes just yet in this dialog box. I'll go ahead and click Cancel. But if I click in the first paragraph, I can see that the normal style is selected. But remember, the normal style had extra spacing after. So if I now want what's for this document only, the normal style to not include extra spacing, I can update the normal style to match this paragraph. So up here in the dialog box, I'm going to right click on Normal, and I'm going to choose Update Normal to match Selection. And now you can see all the other paragraphs now have the first line indented and no spacing. Unfortunately, even the headings have that same style. So that, I really don't want that. Like Applications Developer, for example, is now indented because it was originally normal. Even though I changed it to heading, it's now indented. Okay? So it's not perfect. Even the title here is also indented. The reason why those are indented is because the heading 1 style is actually based on the normal style. So if I come up here in the style group and right click on heading 1, I can then click on Modify. And where it says style is based on normal, I can change that to no style and click OK. And now you can see down here it's pushed it back to the left-hand margin. Okay. I could do the same thing for the title style. So I can, now if I want to find title, I have to click, you see it's not appearing. I could also right click on this title here and go to never mind. I thought that this right-click menu would have a link for the styles, but it doesn't. So I just want to be on that paragraph somewhere. When I click on this drop-down arrow, there's title. I'll right-click on it, modify, and again change it from style based on normal to style based on no style, and click OK, and now it's pushed back over to the left margin. Next, I want our title here to stand out a little bit more. I also want to put a little space between it, so I'm going to select that whole title. I can either use the mini toolbar that's popped up, or I can go up to the ribbon. Once you go up to the ribbon, the mini toolbar goes away, and I can only get it back if I go and select the text again. So from here, I'm going to click the Increase Font Size button to take it up one more size. You can see that pretty much fills the space. And you can always click the Font Size button and try different sizes here, but the Increase Font and Decrease Font, which you'll notice when I point to it, there's some keyboard shortcuts, Control-Shift less than and Control-Shift greater than, will also increase or decrease the font size. I want to change the font color, so I'm going to click on the little drop down arrow here next to my font color button. They've asked me to change it to blue accent 1 darker 25%, so I'm going to find blue accent 1 and come down until I find darker 25%. Then I'll click my little line and paragraph spacing button, and I want to add space after. Now, if you're wondering how much space does it know to add, there's a default. If I launch the paragraph dialog box, you can see that it went to 12 point. This little up or down arrow actually moves it in increments of 6 points, but you are not limited to that. I could type in 5 if I wanted to. The next section in the chapter is about inserting page break numbers and inserting page numbers and page breaks. So I can see that this is a 3-page document. It says down here page 1 of 3. And as I scroll down, I can see that, okay, I get this customer service, and then it's going on and automatically rolling because of my margin at the bottom. See the space down here is my bottom margin. That won't fit, so it goes down to the next page. This is my top margin. So sometimes that may not be great because it might split something that might be awkward for the reader to read it if it's split, like if there was one line from a paragraph that was on the previous page. Now, everybody, I might have skipped some steps in here in going in and applying the heading style to some of these. Remember, if I wanted to make this a heading, I could just simply click on it. Okay. So they had some other headings in here. Remember, this is not a graded assignment. I'm just showing you how to do these skills for this chapter. But so anyway, well, I'll do one more. Okay. So if I realize that I wanted Customer Service Manager, since only a few lines are on the bottom of page 1, I want to push it to page 2. I can insert a page break. So I'm going to click my insertion point right in front of the heading Customer Service Manager. I'm going to go to the Layout tab, click on Breaks, and you can see there's a lot of different types of breaks. If I, obviously the one to make it go to a new page is a page break. Section breaks, I can't remember what chapter we get into any of those, but section breaks allow you to format different sections of a document in different ways. For example, if I needed part of a section turned on its side, rotated so that it's wider in landscape view, I could create different section breaks that would allow me to format different parts of the section with different margins. Maybe part of it would be in columns, things like that. So I'm going to click on Page. And so now with my Show High button turned on, you can see where I had positioned my insertion point. I now have a page break, and I've pushed Customer Service Manager to the top of the next page. I'll scroll down now here. Let's go ahead and fix some of these headings. I'll go back to Home. That's another heading. This is another heading. And this one. And so if I now want to push Intelligence Analyst to page 3, instead of going to Layout, Break, Page, you can place your insertion point where you want to put the page break and use the keyboard combination Control Enter, and that also will put in a hard page break. The next step is to put page numbers automatically. And this is always wise to let the program put the page numbers in for you. You don't want to type page numbers on, because if you edit the document, it may change the page numbers. So you want to let the program identify which page it should be. So if I go to the Insert tab on my ribbon here, and then click on page number here in the header and footer group, it gives me some options that I can quickly choose from. Do I want them at the top of the page, the bottom of the page? I'm going to select bottom of page. I'll click on the little, or just point to it, and then a little, it might appear on your right or left depending on the size of your screen. And so I have some options here, and I can see plain number 1 would put it in the bottom left side. Plain number 2 would have the bottom centered, and plain number 3 bottom right. Some of these others have accents where it's got like 1 and a little bar and the word page. So there's a lot of more stylistic options, larger sizes, lines or little tilde, the little accent mark there, different things that you can have. So I'm going to go back up and choose plain number 2. So I happen to be on page 3, so it's taking me to 3. You'll also notice it has taken me to the header and footer ribbon. This is what we call a contextual ribbon that only appears when you're in that or using that tool. So if I click close header and footer, that ribbon goes away. But if I scroll up, I can see there's the 2 on the bottom of page 2, and there's the 1 on the bottom of page 1. Now if I needed to get in to make any edits to that, I can double click on it and I'm back in the footer. Okay? So if I wanted to format the number, I'd need to be in the header to be able to do that. If I want to get out of it, again, I can click close header and footer, or I can double click in the body text of that page. The textbook points out if you wanted to see all 3 pages, you can go to View and then choose multiple pages, and I can quickly see here, okay, there's page 1, 2, and 3. I have a number on every page. I'm going to go back to page width, and then the next thing is about modifying, again, the header and footer. So even though that was put into the footer, we didn't go straight to header and footer. We used the Insert Page Numbers tool that just made it faster to do that. If I go to View, or I'm sorry, Insert, and then I have this header and footer group here. And so if I wanted to put a header in, if I click the bottom half, it gives me some options with some other stylized options that have color and things like that. But I can just click the top half. Oops. Oh, it's not going to let me do that. I can go down here to Edit Header. Another thing is once you have a header or footer in your document, like I have the footer down here, if I scroll up to the top and I double click in the top section of my document, I can automatically enter the header that way as well. You'll notice when I did that it's indented. It might have been because of where I double clicked. I'm going to hit the backspace key. You can double click to position your insertion point in a certain place. So I didn't have it there, but now that I've double clicked up here, you can see I've got the header and footer ribbon again. So let me get out of that. I could have gone to Insert, Header, and Edit Header, and place my insertion point there in the header. I went ahead and closed the header because I wanted to show you if I do go to Insert, the exercise in the book wanted you to go to Header and choose Blank, and you can see how these have places to put text already where it says type here. So blank 3 columns is going to divide it into 3 sections. So if you wanted to put things on the left, something in the middle, something on the right, this would already be set up to do that. But if I do click blank, you'll notice that it's indented and got an extra paragraph below here. So just be mindful, you don't have to do that. You could have just put it in. You can press enter if you wanted to create additional paragraphs, you don't have to use those built-in options, but I just wanted to show it to you. Now here where it says type here, it's already ready for me to type in the text. Career growth in the tech sector. If I want to change the alignment of this paragraph, I can go to the home ribbon and I'm going to change my center alignment. I want to change the font color. So I'm going to select this text, and it's telling me to just click the A. So you'll notice that the A has that same blue color that I chose before. So it remembers the last color that you chose, and it makes it a lot faster to use that same color. Okay. And then I'm going to add a bottom border. So I'm going to click here. The bottom border is actually already on this little picture. This little window pane represents the selected paragraph, and so I can see that there's only a border on the bottom. If I click the drop down arrow, you can see different types of borders. So if I go to bottom border, it's actually putting it across the entire paragraph, not just the text. That would be underlined if I only wanted the text underlined. So that's different than a border. Next, I want to edit my footer with my page number so it has the same font color that I'm using in my header. And so on the header and footer ribbon, I can to the footer by clicking the Go to Footer button. I'm going to click on the page number, which is right here. Oh, I'm missing my page number again. Okay, let me put the page number back in here. Bottom of page, I want plain number 2. Somehow I've deleted it. So if you have yours, if it's highlighted or selected, you can go to the home ribbon, click the font color button, and so now I've changed all of them to that blue color, because anything I do to one is going to apply to all of them. I'll go back to the header and footer ribbon and close the header and footer, and so I'll just take a moment and scroll through. So there's my blue one. Now it looks a lot lighter, so does the header here on the top of page 2, because you don't see it in its true color when you're editing the document. You only see it in the true color when you're editing the header or footer. So it looks grayed out just to distinguish between the header and footer area and your regular text. If it were to be printed, it would be in full color. Now, most often you don't see the page number of a report listed on page 1. It would start on page 2. So how do I fix that? Well, I need to get back into the area, the header and footer ribbon. I'm going to double click on this number 1 to jump and open the header and footer ribbon. And then I'm going to choose different first page. And so now my number is no longer on the bottom of page 1. I'm going to close the header and footer. I'll click to View and Multiple Pages. And so you can see no page number on the bottom of page 1, but I have 2 and 3. You can barely see it here on the bottom of pages 2 and 3. The next topic is adding footnotes and endnotes. So footnotes and endnotes are used in documents to provide further information, explanatory text, or references for the text in a document. And so footnotes appear at the foot of the page that the notation is, and endnotes are all placed at the end of the document. Now sometimes you might have an instructor who advises you to use footnotes for citations even. That's different than doing citations with a bibliography, which we'll get to also in this chapter. Okay, so I'm going to go to the Reference tab. That's where the footnotes and endnotes live, in this footnotes section. And the first thing is to go to where I want to place the footnote. So the textbook says to scroll to the Business Analyst heading. So I'll scroll down. Here it is here. And it says at the end of that paragraph, I want to place my insertion point after the word demand. So footnotes and endnotes, the notation is going to go after the closed punctuation. That's different with citations that go inside the end punctuation. So you want to make sure you put your insertion point, the period. So right there, go to Insert Footnote here at the top. That's going to immediately put a number 1 because this is the first footnote that I've put in. And it's going to jump me down to the bottom of the page. Okay. Now, everybody, the footnote is based on normal. That's why it's giving me the indentation. We did a lot of that. I often don't want to mess around with the normal setting and modifying that style because of things like this. A lot of the built-in styles are based on normal, and so if you change that, it's going to affect it. Now, this line above is called a footnote separator. It lets the reader see that that's not part of the paragraph before, in case the paragraph was continuing on the next page. So it's just separating this section, and then it matches up the one from up here with the one down here. Now, with my insertion point blinking next to this one, I'm going to type in the footnote. Job growth, strong in Seattle, Austin, and Boston. Okay. Next, they want me to scroll up and put the insertion point at the end of the heading Applications Developer. So I'll come up here, click right here. There's a space after that, so I would probably get rid of that space and put it right after the word itself. And then I'm going to go to Insert Footnote. Now I'm going up higher in the page than the previous footnote. So when I go to Insert Footnote, I'm now at a new number 1 because it's higher up, and it's automatically renumbered the other one too. Okay. So here for this one, I'm going to put in this footnote. Okay, and so next I'm going to place the insertion point at the end of the paragraph under the Applications Developer heading. So down here at the bottom, at the very end. So now I'm in between the two. And so now if I go ahead and insert another footnote, I now have a new number 2. Oops, I'm writing the wrong one. This should say many hold a master's degree. I made a typo there. Okay, so now I've got 3 footnotes here, and I just want to point out that if I scroll up where I can't see the footnotes at the bottom, if I place my mouse on top of the number, a little screen tip box will appear and I can read what that footnote is. So that's really handy when you have multiple footnotes in many, many documents. Well, footnotes appear at the bottom of the page, but at least you don't have to scroll to the bottom to read them. Okay, before we move on to the next thing we're going to do with these footnotes, I want to go back to modifying the style so that we don't have it indented like that. If I click on Home, the reason why it's better to modify the style rather than just the paragraphs is because if I have multiple footnotes on different pages, I want them all changed at one time rather than having to go and modify them on each page that they're on. So I'm going to click the little Styles dialog box launcher here and find footnotes, which I can't seem to see here. Here, oh, nope. Okay, I don't know why footnote style wasn't appearing in this list, but if I right-click on one of the footnotes, I can go to Style here, and you'll notice it took me to the footnote style. So now I'm going to click Modify, and not based on normal, I'm going to say based on no style, and I can click OK, and Apply, and now it pushed them over. Now, I'm not sure, unfortunately the footnote separator, now that I did that, they're all separated. well, maybe we don't want to do that. I'm going to click undo because it's moving it from that. It didn't automatically change the footnote separator, and it changed the line spacing. So I'm going to leave it as it modify it. I think it wasn't a great idea to normal style. I think it's better if you just leave that the way it is and make changes to other styles. But you can see I could have just gone to this paragraph with the footnote separator and change the alignment from first line. Okay. All right, I don't want to confuse you too much. So I'm going to move on. The next thing it says it wants us to do is to launch the footnotes dialog. So I'm going to go to References. I'm going to click the little square in the bottom right corner of Footnotes. And so you can see I have some options. If I wanted to convert the footnotes to endnotes, I can do that using this. Footnotes are automatically numbered, while endnotes use lowercase Roman numerals, so little I, little double I. But I can change the formatting of that. If I don't want them to be numbered, I could change it to ABC. So if I click on that, and I click Apply. Now they're no longer numbered, but they're lettered. I can click the Undo button if I decide I don't want to do that. And if I wanted to delete one of my footnotes, I can go a couple of ways. If I click on the footnote itself, the number, if I click up here, and looks like if I go to number 2, and I click and press my delete key, and then that selects it, and then delete. I've removed it, and so now if I go down, I only have 2. Okay. The next topic is about inserting citations. So if you're writing a paper and you get information from some source, you need to cite the source. Where did you get this information? If you don't do that, you are plagiarizing someone else's work. I'm going to scroll up towards the top of the page here, and in the second paragraph, the word job here at the end, I'm going to place a citation for this sentence. So I want to click this time in front of the end punctuation, so between the B in job and the period. So citations go before the end punctuation, footnotes and endnotes go after. With my insertion point here, I'm going to first, before I put in the citation, choose which style that I want my bibliography to be in, and some of the citation options as well. So it's defaulting here to APA, American Psychological Association. You may be familiar with MLA, and this is another standard style for students to write their citations and bibliographies in. So I'm going to change it to the MLA style, and then I'm going to go to Insert Citation. Now you'll notice that there's already one that's popping up because this file was created by the publisher. They already have one available citation for me. And so if I was going to want to use this Future is Digital citation for this sentence, I could just click on it. But I'm going to click on Add New Source, and a dialog box opens where I can choose what type of source it is. So is it a book? Is it a section of a book? Is it an article in a periodical? A report? A website? So I'm going to go down and find report. So I'll select that. So depending on the type of source, these boxes may change. Favorite author, so I'll check that box. And then the book gives me all of the information to enter and a little picture in the book. So I'm going to go and put that in. This corporate author is JCL Talent. The title is Digital Innovations. Outlook for Job Seekers 21 by JCL Talent Inc. in Atlanta. The report type is what's referred to as a white paper. The medium was print. And you can see that it gives it this tag name. This is not something that you probably are ever going to use, but so that's all of the fields that I need. I'll go ahead and click OK. And so now it has put some of the information in this box, but I may want to edit that. It looks like I might have made a typo with the name here too. So I'm going to click on this little arrow, and I'm going to edit my source. And yes, I left the T out there in Talent, so I'll click OK. It says the source exists in your master list and current document. Do you want to update both? Yes, I want to update my change in both. Now, often when you're using a particular source, you might cite something from that source more than one time. And so you need to identify to the reader some additional information about where to find that particular entry in that source. So like a page number, for example. So we're going to click on the citation so that this little drop-down arrow appears. And this time I want to edit the citation, not the source. So when I edit the citation, I'm going to get a little dialog box, and I can put what page number that's in. And so we're going to put in 15 for this one. Now you do have options to suppress, the year, the title. I don't have those appearing, so that's not anything I need to suppress. And I'll go ahead and click OK, and now it adds in 15. So the format that you see without a comma, that has to do with the MLA format. Different styles for citations might appear format. Okay, I'm going to add another citation. This time it says scroll down and place the insertion point at the end of the paragraph under the Applications Developer heading. So this paragraph here, remember I'm doing a citation, so I want to be before the end punctuation. I'm going to go to Insert Citation. Now you can see there's my JCL, so if I wanted to reference that again, I could choose it here, or I can add a new source. This source is going to be a document from a website, so I'm going to find that. I have a corporate author again, U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. So I'll quickly type in this monthly labor review. The website is called the Bureau of Labor Statistics website. 2021, February. So when did you access it? The reason why this is important for something like this is because someone may go there at some point and not find it, and maybe it doesn't exist anymore. So you're letting them know when you accessed that website. Oh, here. Oh, so it looks like the actual document was dated, but you accessed it in March. And the medium is wet. Okay, so now I've added that. Okay, so I don't need to edit that citation. It's a website. I don't have a page number to put in, but I am going to use that same citation for another place in the document. So I'm going to scroll down to the very end here, and then it says to repeat that step at the end of the very last document. So I'll click in front of the punctuation at the very end here. After 2030, I'll go to Insert Citation, and I'll use the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics again. Now let's say you have something in this document and you know it needs to be cited, but you don't have all of the information. You can add a placeholder so that it alerts you that you need to put a citation in. So I'm going to scroll up to the section for Data Architect. Let's see, where is that heading? Right here. And I'm going to place my insertion point at the end of that paragraph, right in front of the end punctuation. And I'm going to go to Insert Citation and Add New Placeholder. And then I could give it a name here if I want to put a name for the placeholder. I'm just going to put NYT for New York Times. I'll have to go look up that information. But now I'll have that there waiting for me to edit it later. Now you might recall there was a citation that was already entered in this document that the publisher provided. We didn't enter it anywhere, so if we created a bibliography, it would still appear as part of our sources even though we haven't identified it here. So for example, if I created a bibliography now, it would include that one citation that I didn't place. So you always want to look and manage your sources before you create your bibliography to make sure it's only going to include what it should include. So I'm going to go back to here to References. I'm going to click on Manage Sources. And so here's my master list, and then here's my current list. So there were some other things that the publisher had available to me that I didn't use. But I need to get rid of this one here. So I'm going to click on this Raya Singh, and I'm going to delete that from my list. Okay, now I can close. Now I want to do Control End to get to the very end of my document. And then if I want to have my bibliography on a separate page, I can create a page break by using Control Enter. So here I am at the top of a brand new page. I'll click on Bibliography, and I have some options. I can either insert a bibliography down here at the very bottom, or I can use one of these built-in options. Now, the only difference with the built-in options is that they already have titles. So if I wanted to say Works Cited, I can choose this one. If I wanted to say References or Bibliography, I can choose that. You don't want to choose Insert Bibliography without putting something where, as a title for it. So it's nice that it gives us these options. In the exercise, it says to use the bibliography built-in. So if I click on that, you can see it puts the word bibliography in this heading format, and then it puts in my two sources. Now remember, I used U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics twice, but in a bibliography it would only list it once. Here's that hanging indent I mentioned earlier, so it makes it easy for me to see that these are in alphabetical order. So if I had a lot of citations, I could quickly find them alphabetically because of that hanging indent format. So all of the information that I put, it's all put in the right format. If it needs to be italicized, it's italicized. Puts in all the information, commas where they're supposed to go, because of the MLA format that I chose at the very beginning. Now let's say you made an error when you were entering the citation after you've already put in the bibliography. Well, that's okay, because when we use this particular, sets that were already made, if we had done insert bibliography, we wouldn't have these features to update. So that's one of the nice things about using this option. But if I want to go into Manage Sources, and I'm going to go to my JCL Talent and edit. And rather than a corporate author, I'm going to put in someone's name. So the author this time is going to be Siobhan Rudd. I'll click OK. And it says the source exists in your master list. Do I want to update both? Yes. And I'll close. And you can see this hasn't updated yet. So if I click here and I click Update Citations and Bibliography, it's now changed to have that author's name. The last item in the chapter is about inspecting a document. And it's suggested that before you distribute a document electronically to people outside of your organization, it's wise to make sure the file does not include embedded private or confidential information. And you can do this by inspecting it and looking at the info that's associated with the document in Backstage View. Backstage View is what you see when you click on File. So File is not really a ribbon tab, it's just a link to Backstage View. So you can see here I've got options Home, New, Open a File, and I can go down here to Info. And this shows me the properties for the file. I can add my name. This is showing who last modified it because I'm logged in, and it has my name up here. So depending on how your company has Microsoft Office organized, it can have different information. Over here I can see inspect the document. If I click on check views and choose inspect the document for hidden properties or personal information, I can go ahead and say, it says make sure you save your changes. Do I want to save now? Yes. And so it's showing me that there's some comments in there. So maybe if I'm going to send this to someone, I don't want them to see that. And so I can go in and make changes based on what it's alerting me might be some issues that I don't want other people to see. All right, that is the end of Chapter 2. So remember, if you use the training for Word Module 2, that also covers all of this. And I hope you enjoyed following along with me and working on this chapter exercise. This will prepare you now to complete the projects A and B that are part of your graded assignments, as well as the exam.